Okay, so good evening, Miss, and to anyone that is watching. My name is Kanan, and this will be my video evaluation 2 for Term 2 at the date of 7 November 2021. In this video evaluation, we'll be doing polynomial functions if I'm not mistaken, and then this video evaluation, we will have two questions in total. One of the question I will be using Clip Art Studio because the miss asked me to draw or graph the graph by itself. So with that said, let's move on to the first question. So in the first question, it takes the function of x as you see in the picture, and to point out any x and y intercept or if there's any holes or as well as asymptotes. Now, with this being said, we are supposed to graph the graph later on using the information that we have received. Moving on, we can instantly get the domain by simply taking the denominator of the function of x, as you can see above. So the domain itself is going to be x plus 1 is not equals to 0 because since the base function of this one should be 1 over x. So just substituting x plus 1 not equal to 0, and that should give us x not equals to negative 1. If we're supposed to put it in a domain format, that should be x is equals to any real number and x is not equals to minus 1. So we go to domain, and now we can move on to the x and y intercept. So the y-intercept will be x is equals to 0 since it touches the y-axis. We can simply put 0 as the value of x into the function above, and that will give us a value of negative 4 for the y-intercept. Moving on to the x-intercept is that the y is supposed to be 0 since it's going to pass through the x-axis. So we can just put as the formula of 3x minus 4 over x plus 1 equals to 0. We run the numbers, and that should give us the value of intercept as 4 over 3. Now, for the asymptotes for the vertical and horizontal asymptotes, we can focus on the vertical asymptote first, and that should be of negative 1. We can get the vertical asymptote by taking it from the domain that we have solved earlier. As for the horizontal asymptote, we can take it from the leading coefficient of the function that we have seen. So that should be 3 over 1, or we can just say it as 3. Now, there is no holes in this function, and one way to prove it is that the denominator have no factor that can be reduced or basically just simplified from the numerator above. Hence, this is why I use asymptotes and I did not write down any holes. Since we already have everything that we had, or since we have every single answer that the miss asked us to do, we can simply move on to the Clip Studio to help us into graphing the whole graph. Now, this is a little thing that I have created. So with this, we can actually get a quite a closer look to this. If so, oops, that's too much. And through this, we can use all the answers that we received to actually draw some line, or actually to plot out and where we're supposed to go. So the first one that we know is that the horizontal asymptote should be at negative 1. Sorry, that's the vertical asymptote. The vertical asymptote should be at negative 1. So it should appear around here. Being said, we could just go up a bit and follow this line right here and draw the line. Then just gonna make this a different color from the graph so you can see it a bit easier. Right. There. This is the vertical asymptote of the graph. And now the horizontal asymptote should be at 3. So that means it should be around here. Yeah. I'm gonna put the horizontal asymptote as a green color to let you guys see it easier. There, I should do it. Oh, actually, hold on a second. Yeah, just like that. Now, with that being said, we can already have the basically some sort of the idea on how it's going to play out. Now, another thing is that it passes through the x and y intercept. So for the y, it passed through at, if I'm not mistaken, -4, was it? Yeah, -4. So it's supposed to pass through around this part. Hold on a second. Let me just put that as a bit of purple so you guys can see. So the y-intercept supposed to be put in as -4, which is right here. Whoops, sorry. So not used to this yet. There should be the y-intercept. And the x-intercept is around 4 over, so 1.33 around so it's supposed to be around here then that it passes through. Now I know it's not perfect, but please forgive me because this is the first time I'm drawing a graph digitally. So we already know the x and y intercept. We also already know on where the vertical and the horizontal asymptote are going to end up. So with that being said, we could just draw the line or basically graph the graph as so. Following that should be around, oops, let me just make that a bit larger. Once again, sorry for the very, very bad drawing. It's my first time using these sort of tools to draw a graph. I usually use Desmos. So the first graph is supposed to look something like that. Well, Meska did not put for this, for the horrible drawings anyway. And the second one should look something like that too, but it's supposed to be mirrored on the other side, so it's gonna look something like this. Oh boy, that's too much scratches. Okay, so this should what the graph is supposed to look like, or roughly on how it's supposed to look like. Do forgive the bad drawing once again. And with that said, we can now move on to the second question, and that is to solve for fx that is greater than or equal to 0. With this, we can just solve for the inequality of fx. That being said, and you can see the process that's going down in front of you. And it'll leave us with the answer of x is greater than or equal to 5.2, or 5 over 2, or 2.5. Now, if we were to put this in a linear graph, or basically to be drawn as, I make a bit something like this. So it ranges from 1 to 4, because the slideshow isn't big enough. And I'm going to put the spot at 2.5 and the arrow going forward. Now, why is the spot blackened or basically filled with color? If the spot weren't to be filled with color, that means x is supposed to be greater than. But the symbol that we use is x is greater than or equal to. That's why the spot needs to be filled. And it is said that x is greater than 5 over 2 or 2.5. So that means the arrow is supposed to move forward from 2.5. And that should conclude the last part of the question.